Game Over 30, shout out to you, sir. You said Xbox creates an alternative payment method called Game Pass, which allows people to pay a monthly fee for a catalog of games. Industry, in quote, analysts and commentators baffled when they see traditional sales in Xbox ecosystem drop when compared to other platforms. What could possibly be going on here? He uses bro as kind of a question of someone that's missing the obvious. Then he says, this point continually baffles me, especially when you read these articles/posts where someone reveals XYZ game may have sold better on another console platform. Thus, that platform is clearly where the game saw success. What? Did we suddenly forget about 34 million people are literally paying a fee every month, regardless of whether they download a thing or not? It's just easier in their wallet to pay a monthly fee than try to budget for new games. This is just common economic sense. Well, Game Over 30, I'm telling you, man, that thing is lacking in this whole gaming conversation. You're just speaking Latin. What are you talking about? Common economic sense? Get out of here with that. And for Microsoft, TVM means that cash in hand is better than asking people to pay for something later. Shout out to Nervous Breakdown audience member who made a chart that shows what I've been trying to depict in a much more presentable way. All this while, you guys have had your eyes basically being hurt by my squigglies that I've been drawing. So Nervous Breakdown looked and said, VG, you can have this for free. And what this does is this actually, it opens up the Xbox business model and exposes the fact that a lot of the folk in the industry and these analysts, they have a tunnel vision methodology of actually looking at Xbox from their game's perspective. Let me show you what I mean. For instance, a lot of these people will say, oh yeah, this game sold maybe 3 million units on PlayStation. On Xbox, it sold only 1 million units. Hence, this Xbox game is selling better on PlayStation units while ignoring the fact that that exact same month, right? That exact same month, 34 million people would have paid an average of at least $12, maybe more. And I say 34 million because it's the last official number we have. But then we also have the 30% increase on console, which I'm even going to remove from this equation for the sake of convenience, right? And then they go ahead and not realize that those people at the month that game rolled out had put $500 million of subscription cost into the Xbox ecosystem, whether or not they played the game, which is just absolutely wild that they would ignore this source of revenue. Now, at the point where this is being, talked about and, 34 million people paying, $12 a month, putting it at somewhere $8 million, by the time they spend 2 months on the service, multiply that number by, or let's just say they spend 1 quarter. These 34 million people times, 3, that is over $1.2 billion in revenue. Now think about this. If that game sold 3 million copies on PlayStation, let's just humor the math. They sold 3 million copies on PlayStation times a $70 price tag, which is $210 million. Now remove 70% from it. That is 147 million units. How in the world does that game see more success on PlayStation than it did on Xbox? How? And this is just with the number of 34 million. Do you guys understand that if Game Pass sees another 6 million users by the end of the year, that it's a done deal? Like, do you not understand that if Game Pass actually took, and the rumor on the streets is around 50 million, which is a rumor, I can't give it any kind of, credence at all. The best I can do for Xbox is to take that 30% of an arbitrary PC gamer increase number and call it, let's say, 600,000, right? So the best I can do for Xbox is 34,600,000 users. That's the best I can give Xbox. And I take this 34,600,000 and I multiply by an average of 12, and I'm at 415,200,000 a month. When I multiply that by a quarter, that 1.2 that I got now goes up to 1,245,600,000, which is also an increase at the end of the day. And that is just 1 quarter. When you multiply that by 1 year, you have a whole different thing coming your way, which is close to $5 billion a year from subscription cost. Now, everybody can look and say to ourselves, it appears this is why Xbox is comfortable launching games on Game Pass and not worried about individual unit sales. Because individual unit sales actually have to do way more to catch up here than that. Do you know how many copies of games you'd have to sell to see $5 billion? Call of Duty, $25 million Call of Duty, is not doing $5 billion in sales in a given year. Call of Duty, yes, it's nice in its sales, and I've run some numbers based on arbitrary, just numbers that we've had for the longest time, right? Where's my little PlayStation cost calculator chart that I did a while ago? I put a separate sheet here to show these numbers. When I did the math and I did, Game Pass at $3 billion, look at it right here. Call of Duty was still all of these little guys here. Call of Duty could not, and this is Call of Duty on almost all platforms, given an estimate using about 30 million units of Call of Duty sold. And yet, it's still not close. So what he's saying here is, a lot of people are misconstruing Xbox's business model, which I think it's good, for them. What you're doing is you may make it sound like this, but if you're an analyst doing all this stuff, you have to understand that you're going to let Xbox walk right into its next acquisition with not a single hint of resistance from any regulatory bodies. Because you can simply just go ahead and keep lying about their market position, and they can comfortably accept and say, yeah, we don't have a lot of console sales. Yeah, poor us. And the regulator is going to be like, yeah, the games are selling more on PlayStation, not realizing that they're creating a monster that PlayStation is going to basically be bodied by. A lot of these so-called PlayStation fanboys, I think the biggest challenge that we have here is, I'm just trying to play chess. If you're a chess player, you're looking at multiple moves ahead. That's all I'm looking at. A lot of people, when I say I'm trying to help PlayStation, they don't believe it. They're like, he just hates PlayStation. Sorry, worshiping a box or worshiping a platform is to nobody's benefit. Letting one get bigger is to your own wallet's detriment, because your wallet is going to have to either keep PlayStation afloat, or Xbox is going to pretty much get to the point where it knows it controls a significant portion of the gaming software market, and then also go ahead and charge those users as well. Either way, you're dining with two devils, and so you got to realize that, man, you can't let one be stronger than the other one, and you must look moves ahead. I just ran numbers for you with the words that came out of Sarah Bond's mouth, and I gave an extra 600K subs for the 30% increase if, say, PC had 2 million Game Pass subscribers. That's what I threw in there. I'm not even going as far as some of the Xbox commentators who are pushing 50 million units. Do you know what happens if Xbox hits 50 million Game Pass subscribers? Do you really understand do you understand the ramifications of that? Pick up a calculator and calculate it yourself. See what happens. I just showed you with the sales of 3 million units and 70% compared to Game Pass, getting a measly 600,000 more subs. Can you imagine 1 million more? Can you imagine 2 million more? Can you imagine 3 million more? Can you imagine a Fallout 3? Can you imagine a remaster? Can you imagine a Fallout New Vegas remaster? Can you imagine what the heck that kind of thing is going to do to Game Pass? The Game Pass cost and the Game Pass subscriptions are going to just absorb one another to keep this company growing unfeathered, untouched. If you're a PlayStation fan, you got to wake up. You've got to wake up. This is not just about some of your console war nonsense. That stuff's over. If you're an Xbox fan, I don't think you really understand I don't really think you really understand. Some Xbox fans don't understand the ramifications of all of this. It's crazy. That's the best I can put it at. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.